Okay, so today what I'm going to explain, it's not explicitly related to Ansible, but yes, of course, it's going to come in use when you start working on Ansible. Uh, if you already know, Ansible uses SSH protocol to execute commands on the client nodes. So, I mean, it's not like other configuration tools, say Puppet, wherein you need to install the agents there on the client machines and then they pull the information from the master node, right? So here in Ansible, it basically works on the push mechanism, wherein from the master node, it pushes the configurations to the clients. So to get the execution done, Ansible relies on SSH protocol. So this lecture is about how to integrate that SSH connection from a master node to the client nodes. Okay, so let's jump on that. So I have already provisioned 3 EC2 instances on AWS Cloud. And this one I'm going to configure as a master. Others are client nodes. So okay, so I've already configured this Ansible user on all these 3 machines, and I've given the root privileges to this user. If you don't know how to set up the application user, you can just go back and watch my previous video. I've explained it there, how to set up the application user and then how to provide privileged access to the application user. Okay, so now as I said, Ansible relies on SSH protocol to execute the commands on the client nodes. So for that, this master node has to connect with these client nodes, right? And how it will be able to do that? If you now try to SSH, and if you take the private IP of this and client 1, and if you try to connect to this machine, it won't work, right? Because it doesn't know from if any request is coming to us. That request itself is not the request is trying to hit here, but it's not able to verify that request because we haven't stored any relevant key or any other parameters here. We can do it without passing the key, but for that you need to modify this. Okay, let me show you without passing the key how we can connect to it. Okay. Yes, so we can modify this SSD config file. If you just open it. Okay, I need to go back to root because I've logged in as Ansible. So exit this. Okay, so now I am back to root. Try to open this file. Okay, let's go to this directory, etc ssh, and then try to access this file, sssd config. So here in this file, if you see currently this password authentication is disabled, right? It's marked to no. So just to test it, if we are able to connect it with the by providing the password of this machine, if you are able to connect or not, just make it yes and then save it. The other thing what I need to do while setting up this Ansible account, I did not set up any password for this Ansible account. So let's configure some password for this account. So I'm giving it Ansible123, retype Ansible123. Okay, so now this password has been associated with this Ansible account. Now, if you try to connect to that machine, client 1, this one, you should be able to connect it from this node. Yeah, I think it's not working because after making the changes here in that configuration file, I didn't restart that SSSD. So let's restart that. systemctl restart sshd. Okay, so that restart is done. Now let's try to connect. Okay, see, so now it's asking for the password of that machine. If you provide that password, Ansible123, you are able to connect to this client one, right? But with Ansible, because Ansible, we are going to use it for the automation, right? So it's not recommended way of setting up the password, because I mean, you can't, it's even practically not possible to enter the password again and again. Then that's not the kind of automation what we want to build, right? So to avoid that, we want to set up the key based access on the clients. So for that, what you need to do on this machine, on the master node, you just create the key pair. So to do that, you just need to execute this ssh keys and a command. Okay, sorry, it's not. Okay, so it's ssh keys in. So what it will do, it will create a pair of private key and public key. I'm just keeping everything default, pressing enter. Okay, so it has created the combination of public and private key, and those will be residing inside SSH directory. Okay, so you can see this is the private key, this is the public key. Okay, I think again I made the mistake. Yeah, I did that actually on this machine. So if you go here and Ansible, yeah, so that has created the key pair here. Anyway, let's delete that because we didn't come out from that node, right? So now we are back to master node. So let's okay, before we do that, let's delete this from here and then delete this. Okay, fine. So that's deleted from the client node. So on this master node, let's create the key pair. Mm, okay, so it has created the key pair on this master node now because we have come out from the client node. Let's see. Okay, so this dot ssh, this has been created here on this master node with the public and private key. If you go here, you won't see that folder now. Okay, so just to confirm you that we performed this execution here on the master node only. So now what we need to do, we need to store this public key on these client nodes so that these nodes allow this Ansible user to connect with these nodes without asking for the password, because that way they will know the identity of this user, right? Okay, this is the known user and we know this user, so they will allow this user to enter to these machines, right? So for that, so I'll show you two ways how we can achieve that. The one way of doing is that you can copy this key from the copy command, and then that uh, you will be able to connect to that client without passing the password. The other way, I will show you how to create the key manually on the client node. So let's see both the ways how to do that. So for the node one, I am just going to copy this ssh-copy-id, and I'm going to copy it to this client machine. So let's take the IP of that because we are able to connect to that node, client node, right? Using the password. So we can copy this file. So let's take the private IP of that node. and press enter. So it's asking for the password. So password, if you remember, we have configured Ansible 123 on this client node for Ansible account, right? So press enter. And if you see, number of keys added one. So this public key has been added here on this machine. If you go to Ansible account, and if you see, it has created .ssh folder, right? And inside this, you will see authorized keys. So in authorized keys, it has pasted the content of public key of this user here, this key. Even if you want to verify it, I can just open both the files. So it's SSHRSA, and the same has been copied here inside authorized keys. See? So now this node already has the public key of this master node. So it will allow this node to come to enter inside this node. So now let's disable that password based authentication on this machine, so that uh, we are double sure that we are able to connect using the key, right? So just go to that etc ssh, open this file ssh-config and make it no. So we don't want to uh, create the authentication based on the password on this machine. So just make it no, save it. Okay. So now if you try to connect to this client one, it will not ask for the password and it will connect to that node. See? So now we are able to connect to the client node, which is this one, without entering any password or anything. And in fact, we have disabled that password based authentication on this node. So so this, once this configuration is done, now using Ansible, we can try to push the configurations from this master node to this client node. We cannot still connect with this client 2 if you try to connect, because we did not pass that public key to that client node 2. So let's try to create connection with this node from master node. So if you come out, so this is master node, and if you try to SSS to client node 2, sorry, it will not work because we did not added the public key here on the client node 2. Also, we did not enable password based authentication on this machine, right? So that is the reason it's failing. So now this time we are not going to copy the file here, we are going to manually create it. So let's see how to do that. So we are inside home Ansible. Let's try to create the SSS directory here. Okay, let's go to that directory and check for the permissions. It's hidden file. Okay. Okay, so we need to change the permissions. So just change mode. It should be 700 on SSH. Okay. Okay, so it's changed it. Read write execution on this directory .ssh. Now go to this directory, and here we will set up this file authorized keys. If you see here, it created automatically, right? cd home ansible.ssh. See, this was copied, right? So let's try to create that authorized keys here. And then paste that key there. So you can take it from anywhere, from the master node directly or from the node where it's already configured. So I'm picking it from node 1 because we're able to connect to the node 1 from the master node, right? So save it. And again, you need to change the permission for this file. So make it 600 authorized keys. Okay. Okay, so it's read right. Fine. So now that key has been added here. Now if you try to connect to this node, you should be able to connect. See? So now we are able to connect to our client node 2 as well. So once you are able to connect, you are able to make the connection using SSH on your client nodes. Now you are ready to push the configurations through Ansible on the client nodes. So that's it for this session. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.